So we can start today. I was reading an interesting article, and it was talking about the scent of grass. I think we all love the scent of grass, freshly mowed grass. We're literally programmed to like that smell. It lets us know that food is fresh and ready to be eaten. But what's kind of interesting is that smell of grass, is essentially the scream of grass. It's screaming in agony and pain. It's its way of letting the other grass nearby know that there's a predator that is out to destroy them, and that they should take appropriate action. So, next time you mow the lawn, enjoy the smell of grass and just know that that smell is the scream of 1,000 blades of grass dying in agony. It's wondrous. Welcome to the mind of Sadas.
I have seen that before. That article stating that it's a call, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we know that plants make actual noise. They literally scream in the same pitch that bats scream, which is the whole reason you don't see bats in forests for the most part. I mean, just imagine it from the perspective of a bat. You're flying into the forest and you hear trees screaming out as they're being bored by insects and grazed on by animals. Like, that would be a pretty terrifying place to be. Ooh, first death. I love it.
Yes, indeed. The first of many to come. And we'll see how upsetty spaghetti I get today, my friends.
It'll be great. I enjoy.
Greating.
He squared lose his mind.
Can't lose something you never had.
I don't know what that's like. I always have to be on my mind. I can't lose it.
I am not going the right way here.
Practically a zombie. But today, in this spirit of death, him dying, the grass dying, trees dying, I want to utilize an AI, and the computer and I, we're just going to come up with a mythical creature. So I'm going to talk to the AI and we'll create our prompts, and then we'll send this off to the machine overlords, and then I'll go over their responses and we'll kind of iterate our own mythical creature today. I think we should create, in the spirit of all these dying plants and animals, we should create G Squared's Nightmare. A mythical creature built around the idea of the death of nature.
Alright, so what are you thinking? We're thinking a kerfluffled tree that is soon to be no more.
I think we're gonna play around with this a little bit here. I'm just gonna type up this prompt and then I'll read it. So I'm just gonna tell. I think I've used a lot of different AI programs, and they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I've used ChatGPT, obviously. That's the big one on everybody's lips these days. I've also used, like, for instance, the Bing AI that was just released, that you can jump on any Bing browser and converse with. Those two are actually going to be merging soon into one integrated AI. That should be interesting. I've used less conventional open AIs like Colossus or OpenGPT that are capable of a lot more advanced functions, but also require a much stronger level of programming and understanding to work with. They're not your open source browsers, they're a little more powerful. But today, I think I'm going to go with one of the other open sources that's really popular. We're going to go with Bard, which is Google's variant. And we're just going to see what kind of twisted mind Google is able to come up with. So I'm going to say I want to create a mythical creature that represents the death of plants and trees. It's thinking here. And we'll just wait for the glorious death that's about to come.
Oh, because it's gonna come. It's coming again and again.
So will you. What? Oh, he's just pounding you.
Yeah.
Well, don't turn around because he's just going to pound you from behind.
I mean, he's gonna pound me either way, buddy. At
Oh,
least I
yeah.
gave him an opening.
He just had his way with you. All right. So, ChatGPT responds, sure, here's a mythical creature that represents the death of plants and trees. It's called the Tree Slayer. It says the Tree Slayer is a large, hulking creature with the body of a bear and the head of a tree. Its skin is covered in bark, and its limbs are twisted and gnarled like tree roots. The Tree Slayer is a powerful and destructive creature, and it can easily fell a tree with a single blow. It is said that the Tree Slayer is driven by a hatred of all things green and growing, and it delights in destroying forests and woodlands. The Tree Slayer is a feared creature, and its mere presence can cause plants to wither and die. It is said that the Tree Slayer is immune to all forms of magic, and it can only be killed by a mortal blow from a weapon made of silver. The Tree Slayer is a reminder of the destructive power of nature, and it serves as a warning to those who would carelessly destroy the environment. Here are some additional details about the Tree Slayer. It is said to live in dark, overgrown forests. It's attracted to the sound of chopping wood. It can smell the fear of its prey. Oh, it can smell freshly cut grass. Wondrous. It can move through trees and vines as easily as it can move on the ground. Well, that would still be on the ground. I don't think it's flying. It is said to be able to control the weather, causing storms and droughts. The Tree Slayer is a powerful and dangerous creature, but it is also a reminder of the importance of protecting the environment. Okay, so that's some interesting things to come out of Bard. It seems to be really confused as to what we're really going for here. The name is terrible, so we're going to start by creating a new name. I'm just going to tell it that I hate the name. So we need to think of like kind of a better name that represents the death of trees. Or death of
Entrotree. This guy just does not like me. And I just suck at these games. Does not help.
Yeah, but he seems to really have an attraction for you. He's just teabagging the shit out of your face.
Really is. I'm just trying to figure out when the best time to attack him is. That's where I'm getting confused and lost here. I mean, honestly, the name or the description of the tree itself really feels like entropy. Entropy given physical form.
Kind of, I could see that. So we'll kind of, I guess, present this option and just see what Bard thinks. So I'm going to say, I hate the name. We need a name that better represents the death of plants. Maybe Entrotree? It plays off of entropy. And let's just see what Bard says about that. It says, sure, Entrotree is a great name, and it is short, memorable, and perfectly captures the idea of the death of plants. Here are some other names that you might like. The Witherer, the Blight, the Rot, the Desolator, the Reaper. The Reaper has some promise, given reaping souls literally came from reaping grain with your sickle.
True,
So, I mean,
but the Reaper's kind of already taken.
it is. That is very fair. It's very played out. But I feel like you could kind of fit that with any of those suggestions. These names are all evocative of death and decay, and they would be perfect for a mythical creature that represents the death of plants. You could also use a name that is specific to the environment in which the creature lives. For example, if the creature lives in a desert, you could call it the Dust Devil, or if the creature lives in a swamp, you could call it the Boogeyman. The name you choose should be something that you like and fits the creature's personalities and abilities.
This guy's hitbox, it seems to be a little bigger than the house. Like,
yeah,
I think I'm getting hit by his shockwave more than I'm getting hit by his hammer. And being as that all damage is equal in this game.
I think we'll go with Entrotree. I think that's perfectly acceptable. But I also don't think the looks of this creature really, I don't know, they really don't sit right with a creature that's meant to reap the souls of trees. It's a large bear with broccoli head. I don't know, the whole thing seems comical rather than scary.
Yeah.
Let's come up with a new prompt here. What kind of a creature would we associate with death? Not a bear.
No.
Not a tree.
Vulture. Vultures
You could do a vulture or a crow or some other flying creature. Those would certainly work.
Yeah, they'll do with death. Bugs. There's a lot of bugs that are death involved.
Yeah. Flies obviously come to mind.
Maggots.
Maggots are another one. Usually flies and maggots and things like that, those are more associated with dead animals. You could do termites perhaps, although while certainly terrifying to trees, they wouldn't embody that real mythical creature type of a feel.
This guy is just hard to get.
Perhaps a bat-like creature. If we're talking about, trees can scream in the pitch of bats, perhaps this is a bat. Perhaps it likes enjoying the sounds of its victims, the screams of its victims.
Okay, so bat-like, but needs to be a little bit more than just a bat, right?
Yep, it's clearly got to be more than a bat. And I'm thinking, you think of like a lawnmower that tears up fields of grass and all that. I feel like it should have some sort of slashing ability, like its wings are razor blades that just mow through the grass or the trees or anything in its path. We could also, most mythical creatures are a hybridization of two creatures. So like the Minotaur is half man, half bull, centaur, half man, half horse. The Sphinx, half man, half lion. The hippogriff, half bird, half lion. Um, Medusa is half snake, half woman. Usually they are half human. And while humans might be fitting here, I think I want to stray away from the overplayed idea of Batman. I don't think that will quite strike fear into the heart of its enemies. I think at this point that would just be comical.
The AI on this boss is very strange.
Perhaps its skin has burls like, trees. Maybe it has bark and burls.
Well, that bat's got some real bark to it, huh? Would you say that its bark is worse than its bite?
I don't know. I've never been bit by a death bat before. That sounds kind of a terrifying name right there.
Death bat?
Death bat?
I mean, kind of simplistic. Intro bat. Entrotree bat?
Entrotree. Well, that's why.
Entrotree, but if we're making it a bat type creature, I don't think Entrotree is.
That's why we want its skin to represent, like, I think birch, just that white. So first of all, it's kind of shocking, a white bat, but also like white, like bone and all that. It kind of gives that feel of death.
I think the crow here is definitely a good symbol of death. Am I crow? I think I'm a crow. I kind of feel like I'm a magpie more than I'm a crow with that white back on there.
Yeah, well, the crow obviously has a lot of symbolism with spirits and, helping the spirits travel either to the underworld or back to their body to wreak vengeance. That is a thing.
So he didn't hit me in the exact spot. I didn't move, he didn't move, and then he hit me. It's by far my least favorite boss so far. His hit patterns just don't make any sense, and then sometimes he just swings completely away from where I am. Let's just reset that one. So we've got a bat. He's got woody, burly skin. He needs to be large. He needs to be a big bat. It can't just be something small. It needs to be something that can really drive fear into the eyes of man and
trees.
Yeah, and then perhaps it has some form of a psychic power that can show images of the suffering of nature.
Well, that will get into the less physical. Let's lock down these physical attributes real quick.
No, a fourth attack. Why? If anybody's in chat, you guys are welcome, of course, to communicate, chat. Make fun of how much I suck at these kinds of games. I am definitely a solid role-playing gamer all around, so these Souls-like games are definitely not my cup of tea. I don't know if it's officially a Souls-like, but it feels that way to me. It's quite as much as infuriating as any of the Souls games I've played. Oh, come on, I was mid-dodge.
What was that Native American bird that was like monstrous in size?
The condor.
No. Mythical creature. The mythical American bird that like would blot out the skies when it flew by.
You'll have to Google that one, my good sir. I do not know. So I know that there was a mythical version of the condor.
I mean, was it the Thunderbird? Or was it?
It would likely be the Thunderbird. That would make sense.
Okay, so the looks don't fit either. It seems comical rather than scary. How about Entrotree resemble a bat with razor-lined wings, and its skin resemble birch bark with burrows? It should be massive in size like the Thunderbird. Let's see, and let's kind of justify these traits. So I've added into this, bats can hear the same pitch that trees scream, allowing it to hear the screams of its victims. The birch skin will make it look skeletal, and the burls represent deformity, making it more unnerving. It can use its razor wings to mow down entire forests. So Bard is saying, I love your ideas. Entrotree sounds like a truly terrifying creature. Here's a more detailed description. Entrotree. Entrotree is a massive bat-like creature with the skin of birch tree. Its wings are lined with razor-sharp blades, and its teeth are like thorns. Entrotree is able to hear the screams of trees, and it delights in destroying forests. Entrotree is said to live in dark, overgrown forests. It's attracted to the sound of chopping wood, and it can smell the fear of its prey. Entrotree can move through the trees and vines as easily as it can move on the ground. It is said to be able to control the weather, causing storms and droughts. Entrotree is a powerful and dangerous creature, but it is also a reminder of the importance of protecting the environment. Here are some additional details about Entrotree. It is said to be the size of a thunderbird, with a wingspan of over 100 feet. It is covered in birch bark, with burls that resemble tumors or growths. Its eyes are red and glowing, and its teeth are like thorns. It can fly at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. It can use its razor-sharp wings to mow down entire forests. It is said to be immune to all forms of magic. Entrotree is truly a terrifying creature, and it is a reminder of the destructive power of nature. You know, I like this one a lot better.
Yeah.
And I think my special guest viewer over here really enjoyed that one. As she was cackling at the sound of Entrotree mowing down forests and listening to their screams of terror. Yeah, she enjoys that. You're still on this guy?
You're not hearing me cussing him out? His mechanics are not fun. Sometimes he does a 3 swing and sometimes he does a 4 swing, so you think you're good, and then all of a sudden he's attacking you a 4th time, and it doesn't seem to have any real rhyme or reason to it.
No, just wait just a little bit longer. You don't have to maximize every hit window.
You do, because he starts swinging again if you don't. And you have to stay out of his... You either have to stay right in his range, rolling right around his ass, which I'm finding is being much more effective. And then sometimes he just attacks in random directions.
Now, would it make sense? Hey, Raised. How's it going?
Hey, Raised, how you doing?
Would it make sense for Entrotree to live in a forest? So, we might be scared of a creature in a forest because the fact that we can't see it coming. It's the fear of the unknown. But if it's in the forest, it's kind of right there with its prey. Would it make more sense for it to live in maybe a cave, more akin to a bat? Or maybe it's more like a thunderbird and that it lives in the skies and it just swoops down to...
I mean, honestly, it should live in the forest because then it can blend in as a tree when it's...
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. It curls up to look like a massive birch tree, like during the day when it's sleeping.
Just instead of curling up like a cat or a wolf or something, though, I mean, curling up on itself into like a tree shape type form. I mean, it's 100 feet wingspan, so it could easily surround itself, causing it to resemble a tree. So Sidos has created his own horrific creature to embody his necromancy. We are going to or what we're doing, I should say, is creating my version, my druidic horror.
So, we're right now chatting with an AI, and the AI is helping us to develop a mythical creature that resembles the death and destruction of plants and trees. So real quickly, just for Raised, since she's missed out on all of the excitement, I am going to just quickly reread this last response it gave. Then I'm going to go through this next thing that I give, and then we're going to see where it goes. So its last response was, "I love your ideas. Entrotree, which is the name that we've come up with, sounds like a truly terrifying creature. Here is a more detailed description. The Entrotree. Entrotree is a massive bat-like creature with the skin of a birch tree. Its wings are lined with razor-sharp blades, and its teeth are like thorns. Entrotree is able to hear the screams of trees, and it delights in destroying forests. Entrotree is said to live in dark, overgrown forests. It's attracted to the sound of chopping wood, and it can smell the fear of its prey. Entrotree can move through trees and vines as easily as it can move through the ground. It is said to be able to control the weather, causing storms and droughts. Entrotree is a powerful and dangerous creature, but it's also a reminder of the importance of protecting the environment. Here are some additional details about Entrotree. It's said to be the size of a thunderbird, with a wingspan of over 100 feet. It is covered in birch bark, with burls that resemble tumors or growths. Its eyes are red and glowing, and its teeth are like thorns. It can fly at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. It can use its razor-sharp wings to mow down entire forests. It's said to be immune to all forms of magic. Entrotree is truly a terrifying creature, and it is a reminder of the destructive power of nature." So that was our latest iteration of this mythical creature we are creating tonight. The response as we continue to tune this, I'm going to say the Entrotree should fold its wings around its body so that it appears to be a massive tree while it sleeps standing up. Now, should this thing sleep during the day or the night? I mean, I would have...
It's a good question. It can be either. It can either reside during the day or the night. It is almost a godlike being.
So maybe its sleep cycle shouldn't be based on time of day. It could be it could be based on activity level, like it sleeps when the forest is alive with activity, but when it grows too quiet, entropy comes out to slay. That could play off of, that fear when things get too quiet. Maybe this is the reason why you should fear it when the forest goes quiet.
All the sounds of the forest go quiet. Fear should run through your veins, as you should know the Entrotree is near. course, Ray, since you missed it, the reason why we went with Entrotree is because it kind of sounds like entropy. Natural cycle of life and death, the breaking down of all things that are, all that good stuff.
Only this breaks down trees and plants and...
People.
Well, I think people and animals are just side casualties in its war against nature. Okay, so it sleeps when the forest is alive and active, but when the forest goes quiet, the Entrotree awakens to feast and destroy. As that's a great idea, it would be very unsettling to come across a massive tree that suddenly unfolds its wings and attacks. It would be like waking up to a nightmare.
Yeah,
I
pretty
love
much.
I love how it understands. This is great. Here's a more detailed description of how Entrotree sleeps. Entrotree folds its wings around its body and stands up on its hind legs. It uses its tail to balance itself. Its eyes close and it goes into a deep sleep. It is said that Entrotree can sleep for centuries. When the forest goes quiet, Entrotree awakens and begins to feast on the trees. It uses its razor-sharp wings to mow down entire forests, leaving nothing but a barren wasteland in its wake. Entrotree is a truly terrifying creature, and it is a reminder of the destructive power of nature. So, how are you feeling about this creature? Are we ready to see it in action?
Oh, I think that's always a fun thing. How are we going to see it in action, my friend?
I'm going to create a little prompt here, and then we are just going to see. Give me a minute to craft, I think, an appropriate intro here. And how are you doing on that boss?
That boss is down. I downed him about 5 minutes ago.
You see, that shows how little attention I pay to you.
No, I know. I see how it is. I see how it is. But I've made the... I just got a weapon. A new weapon. That's not getting used. Since I was informed that there seems to be an achievement for defeating the game with the umbrella. So my fine, pretty umbrella gets to be my weapon of choice throughout this playthrough. Now, if I'm being pranked, well, that'll suck. Alright, so what prompt are we creating there, my friend? Oh, we're going to create a story using the...
Yeah. I almost have this completed here, and then I will read it. Alright. Write me a story about Entrotree. It slumbers as a group of hikers approach and stare in amazement of what it believes is a massive tree, or of what they believe is a massive tree. The forest goes quiet, and the hikers watch in horror as the Entrotree awakens and destroys the surrounding forest. Write it in the style of Warhammer 40k. This is going to be fun. Let's just see what it comes up with. Oh, the system thinks. It says, sure, here's a story about Entrotree in the style of Warhammer 40k. The hikers were exhausted. They had been walking for days and they were starting to lose hope. They were deep in the heart of the forest, and they had not seen another human being in weeks. Suddenly, they came to a clearing. In the middle of the clearing was a massive tree. The tree was so tall that it reached up into the clouds. The hikers had never seen anything like it. They approached the tree cautiously. As they got closer, they could see that the tree was not a tree at all. It was a creature made of wood and bark and thorns. The creature was asleep. Its wings were folded around its body, and its head was resting on its chest. The hikers stared at the creature in amazement. They had never seen anything like it before. Suddenly, the forest went quiet. The birds stopped singing, and the wind stopped blowing. The only sound was the sound of the creature's breathing. The hikers watched in horror as the creature opened its eyes. The eyes were red and glowing, and they filled the hikers with fear. The creature stood up as its wings unfolded. The wings were lined with razor-sharp blades, and they glistened in the sunlight. The creature roared, and the hikers screamed. The creature spread its wings and took to the air. The creature flew over the forest, and it began to destroy everything in its path. It mowed down trees with its razor-sharp wings, and it tore through the ground with its claws. The hikers watched in horror as the creature destroyed the forest. They knew that they were next. The creature swooped down and picked up one of the hikers in its claws. The hiker screamed as the creature carried him away. The creature dropped the hiker into its mouth, and it began to eat him. The hiker screamed in pain as the creature's teeth tore through its flesh. The other hikers watched in horror as the creature ate their friend. They knew that they were next. The creature turned its attention to the other hikers. It roared, and the hikers screamed. The creature spread its wings, and it charged at them. The hikers ran for their lives, but the creature was too fast. It caught them, one by one, and it ate them all. The creature finished eating the hikers, and it flew away. The forest was silent. The trees were dead. The ground was barren. The creature had destroyed everything in its path. It was a reminder of the destructive power of nature. Welcome, it's JBro5. Appreciate the follow.
Hey, welcome aboard.
In case you guys don't know who this is, I'm pretty sure it's Jay, bruh.
Bruh! I figured that was who you were. I saw your after I saw your name on the Book of Faces, my good sir. Jay Bruh is also a streamer. He does some streaming on the Book of Faces. Although I'm encouraging him to come on over to the land of Twitch. But here we be. Appreciate your follow, my good sir. What was that? That was interesting. What did you want me to do?
So let's put this out to the viewers. What did you guys think of that story of this creature we have created? Did it feel properly mythical? That goes for you too, Alex. Your opinions on this creature we have created?
I think we've done some good work on it. Obviously, there's always room for a little bit more improvement, but considering we're allowing AI to write our stories for us and create the majority of the creature, we're sure we give it some more ideas, but 7 short. I think it did a good job. What's that?
It seems like there's a lot of viewers, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the ideas that it can come up with, but if you look at that compared to the original, let's go back to the very first creature that it came up with on its own, and we can see which we like better, because I think it's a massive improvement over the original. So the original was called the Tree Slayer. It said the Tree Slayer is a large hulking creature with the body of a bear and the head of a tree. Its skin is covered in bark and its limbs are twisted and gnarled like tree roots. The Tree Slayer is a powerful and destructive creature. It can easily fell a tree with a single blow. It is said that the Tree Slayer is driven by a hatred of all things green and glowing, and it delights in destroying forests and woodlands. The Tree Slayer is a feared creature, and its mere presence can cause plants to wither and die. It is said that the Tree Slayer is immune to all forms of magic, and can only be killed by a mortal blow from a weapon made of silver. The tree slayer is a reminder of the destructive power of nature and serves as a warning to those who would carelessly destroy the environment. Here are some additional details about the tree slayer. It's said to live in dark, overgrown forest. It's attracted to the sound of chopping wood. It can smell the fear of its prey. It can move through trees and vines as easily as it can move on the ground. It's said to be able to control the weather, causing storms and droughts. The tree slayer is a powerful and dangerous creature, but it's also a reminder of the importance of protecting the environment. So we can see like some of the similarities to the latest iteration. There are some things that are similar, but I think every aspect of what we created was far improved over, what the AI came up with on its own. I think our creature is like far more terrifying. What are you looking for right now?
Well, I've got a puzzle. Oh, hey, there's enemies.
You don't trust those vases anymore.
I sure don't.
Although you probably should have trusted that one a lot less. The first one, you're like, you know what? I'm killing that thing from far away. I bet it's an enemy. And then, no sooner do you kill it and nothing happens, then you're like, okay, I can trust vases again. And then you're immediately attacked by another one.
Yeah. Yep. G squared son, don't worry, my child. You are not alone in the view. Twitch is not good at saying who's actually viewing.
It's really, really notoriously bad at it.
Yeah. We got some folks following and chatting and speaking it with us. Oof.
So, really, what's your opinion on this creature?
I think it's good. It's got
You're
a nice.
not Rage. I already talked to you.
Okay. Oh, you want Rage? Oh, I got you.
I was asking Rage because she wanted to make such a point that she was here with us. She was gracing us with her wondrous presence.
So, Raised, what do you think?
I think she's heard its original form and its latest incarnation. What about all the stuff I'm trying to get rid of? Which is like everything. So, I just asked what kind of hero would be able to take on the Entrotree. And it responded, there are many kinds of heroes who could take on the Entrotree. Here's a few examples. A witch or wizard could use magic to weaken the Entrotree or even destroy it. A warrior with a powerful weapon could slay the Entrotree in battle. A nature spirit could use its powers to calm the Entrotree and restore the forest. A scientist could find a way to stop the Entrotree from destroying the forest. The hero who would be most likely to defeat the Entrotree would be someone who is both powerful and compassionate. The hero would need to be strong enough to defeat the Entrotree in battle, but they would also need to be compassionate enough to understand why the Entrotree is destroying the forest. A hero would need to find a way to stop the Entrotree without destroying it. They would need to find a way to help the Entrotree find peace and harmony with the forest. The hero would be most likely to defeat the Entrotree would be someone who is willing to fight for what is right, even if it means fighting against something that is powerful and dangerous. Sorry, that last paragraph throws me off because that's terrible grammar, which isn't something you usually see out of an AI. Oh, that sounds awesome. A chest freezer full of fish.
Yeah, we're not a fishy family at my place.
I love fish. I just don't know if I've got a place to store any. I do not have a chest freezer. So, I could see the idea of compassion. I think it would be much more interesting if you had a hero that... So I'm thinking Moana here. The demigod in Moana has he's like a strong character. He's a warrior, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really what he is, but that's what he does. Um, and what makes him like unsuited to the task, so to speak, is that he thinks um, he's supposed to overpower the volcano goddess with his fighting prowess. And then he gets his butt whooped upon pretty bad. And so then he decides, well, then it's actually Moana that saves the day, but she's not fighting against this lava creature. She's restoring the heart of Te Fiti. So she understands why it exists and uses her compassion to rectify the problem. I think that would be a much more interesting story than, Perseus slaying the Gorgon. If you have a creature or if you have a hero that, it's like the Spider-Man effect. So, Spider-Man, in like every single story, he thinks he has to beat the bad guys by using his powers. He has to go, be Spider-Man in order to win. And then he gets tore up. He gets just absolutely demolished. And he finds out that Spider-Man is not at all up to the task of beating his enemies. Then he goes back and reassesses his life, and in the end game, instead of trying to be Spider-Man and overpower his opponents, he becomes Peter Parker and uses his brains to outsmart his opponents. So he's this interesting superhero where his superpowers are actually a weakness. And he just thinks that he has to use these powers that he's inherited. But really his strength, the strength to beat his opponents, was inside him the whole time.
Then he says the red-green orcish lumberjack sack a forest to destroy target creature. Get some MTG reference rolling in here tonight. Booyah!
What if the hero was a red-green orcish lumberjack? Magic. The Gathering. Let's just see what the AI makes of this response. A red-green orcish lumberjack would be a perfect hero to take on the Entrotree. Orcs are known for their strength and ferocity, and lumberjacks are known for their skill with axes. A red-green orcish lumberjack would be able to use their strength and skill to defeat the Entrotree in battle. In addition to their strength and skill, a red-green orcish lumberjack would also have the advantage of being connected to nature. Orcs are native to forests, and lumberjacks spend their lives working in the woods. This connection to nature would give the orcish lumberjack an understanding of the Entrotree and its motivations. The orcish lumberjack would be able to use this understanding to find a way to defeat the Entrotree without destroying it. They would be able to find a way to help the Entrotree find peace and harmony with the forest. The orcish lumberjack would be a powerful and compassionate hero who would be able to defeat the Entrotree and restore peace to the forest.
Ease to the forest?
That's what it says. Do we want to see these two just battle it out? Let's not even worry about the hero. Let's go with whatever it just came up with.
Yeah, let's do it. While he types about that, I'm going to go ahead and get my strength power up here. I could go for health, but I really feel like since I'm going umbrella only, I need to make sure that I am buffing up my strength.
Okay, so I picked the last theme. I wanted to hear the last story in Warhammer 40k. What kind of style do we want for this version? If we do Warhammer 40k, I feel like it'd have to be from the Orc Boys.
Well, let's do it like, let's do it, who wrote a bunch of the, who wrote the Mercadian masks for Magic? I mean, if we're gonna use a Magic character in there. I know Richard A. Knack writes stuff for, WoW, but Francis LeBaron, so let's have it write it in the style of Francis LeBaron, with, Magic the Gathering, Mercadian masks.
Francis, how do you spell the last name?
Ellie Barron.
Francis LeBaron. Did you say something after you said his name?
Francis LeBaron in the style of MTG Mercadian masks.
So Francis LeBaron, did he write MGT Mercadian Masks?
He wrote at least one of the songs, it looks like. Or one of the books, not songs.
Yeah, you read a story about the clash of these two creatures in the style of Francis LeBaron and MGT Mercadian Masks. Let's see what it comes up with. Nope, it doesn't have enough information to do that.
Ah, bummer. Well, let's try in the style of Magic the Gathering then. Let's just see what it comes up with.
Alright. Here we go. The two titans stood on opposite sides of the battlefield, their eyes locked in a battle of wills. The ground shook beneath their feet as they clashed, their power unleashing a shockwave that knocked back anyone who was caught in its path. Oh, I don't know if this is about these two creatures or not. This is not. It's lost track of the conversation.
This will happen. It is an AI. What you want? What you want? It got me. It got me good.
It got you. I just refreshed it. Sure, here's a story about the battle between the Entrotree and the red-green orcish lumberjack in the style of Magic the Gathering. The Entrotree stood tall and proud, its roots reaching deep into the earth and its branches reaching high into the sky. It was a symbol of life and growth, and it had stood for centuries, providing shelter and sustenance to all who lived in its shadow. One day, a red-green orcish lumberjack came to the forest. He was looking for wood to build a new home for his tribe, and when he saw the Entrotree as the perfect source, he swung his axe at the tree and the battle began. The Entrotree fought back with all its might, using its roots to trip. See, I think it's completely forgotten about everything.
It's completely forgotten about everything we've discussed. Yeah, I was thinking that right off the entrance there. It is just completely off the rails. Oh, it's another one of these guys. Alright, well that's easy. Oh, it's... Okay. Yeah? Yeah, come bite me again? Alright. I love getting quiet.
I'm telling you, I forgot what the Entrotree was.
Oh, it's just another one of... Oh, okay. Maybe try wording it like...
No, I'm just gonna copy and paste what it was, and that should oh, someone's getting shot. Wondrous. So I'm just going to copy and paste everything that it previously said about the Entrotree. Oh, I pasted it, and in its response it said, "I think your story would be a great addition to Magic the Gathering universe. It is well written, exciting, and thought-provoking. I would love to read more about the battle between the Entrotree and the red-green orcish lumberjack." So I'm writing them, write that story. Silly AI. Sure, here's a story about the battle between the Entrotree and the red-green orcish lumberjack in the style of Magic the Gathering. Sure. Wow, it really just...
is going off the rails.
It really just rewrote the whole story that it created that was off the rails. I think it has done already forgotten about this Entrotree.
Correcting it by telling it, no bad bard, stop trying to
I'm
sleep with the
cool,
monsters that we're trying to have kill each other. Or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think this is just way too much for it. I think it has lost track of the entire storyline.
Okay, so let's have it go back then.
Hold on.
What? There's got to be a way we can get it to. Let's remove the stylistic writing.
Yeah, I'm
And
trying to
just
get
see if we can
it
get it to
to
fight.
write everything it was doing, because it's really stuck on that story.
Do you remember the Entrotree?
Oh, I'm calling it an Entrotree. That might be the problem. Okay, sorry, I corrected it. I said, sorry, the Entrotree. It said, oh, I see, you're referring to the Entrotree, a mystical creature that destroys forests when it awakens. It is said to be a massive tree with wings that can mow down entire forests, leaving nothing but barren wasteland in its wake. The Entrotree is a reminder of the destructive power of nature. The Entrotree is a popular subject of stories and legends. In some stories, the Entrotree is a malevolent creature that seeks to destroy all life. In other stories, the Entrotree is a more benevolent creature that is simply misunderstood. The Entrotree is a powerful symbol of the power of nature. It reminds us that nature is not always benevolent and that we must respect its power. So, it now remembers the Entrotree, but it is now somehow convinced that this is a real thing that is well known in many stories and legends.
That sounds a lot like when you, what was the other thing you got it to believe? The Church of,
Church of Final Resolution?
Final something.
Final Revelation? I'll have to pull it up. So, for those of you that don't know, I convinced Bard, I convinced the Google AI that there was a religious organization that was secretly backing the Republican Party and controlling them and their messaging, and that they were trying to bring about the return of Christ. They were trying to bring back specifically the end times, which would lead to the return of Christ. And so they were trying to get the Republican Party to, push, legislation that would bring about death, destruction, and the end times. And I created it, I made the whole thing up from scratch. and then Google became convinced that this was a real organization and that they were funding the Republicans and they were funding the NRA, and they were a small organization, but it was a real church that was founded in the 90s by who founded it? I don't remember.
One of the cult leaders from the 90s.
Oh yeah, it was. What was that?
I do not remember his name, but it was like one of the real.
It was the cult that ended up having a standoff with the FBI, and then the FBI ultimately set fire to the building and killed all of the people. It ultimately became the inspiration that the Oklahoma City bomber used that like drove him to bomb the Oklahoma government building. Anyways, I totally convinced the AI that this was a thing. It came up with this whole story on its own about it. And then I told ChatGPT what Google was saying, and it was like, I hear what it's saying, but none of that is true. You really need to have Bard check its sources. It was hilarious to watch the two AIs fight with each other. Yeah, Waco, but the Waco, Texas. Yeah, I forget what that's. Who's the guy that did that? I've got all of that. Yeah, it cannot figure out the Entrotree when it's writing that story. I think that story is just a lost cause. David Koresh, yes, that's the guy. 100%.
Raised, what do you think? Should I be an impolite house guest? Should I thump her? What happens if I thump her, Raised? What's she gonna do? Is she gonna go into hard mode if I hit her? No, she just disappears. Okay.
Alright. So we're just going to go with this prompt. We'll see what happens, and I think that'll be it. So I hope you guys appreciate this prompt I just crafted. Write a story where Entrotree is sleeping and an imbecile named Bard stumbles upon it in the dark. Bard is drunk and decides to piss on Entrotree, who awakens and slaughters the forest, and then Bard. Write it in the style of biblical apocalyptic. We're just going to ignore that orc. Well, it won't even write that. It says I'm unable to help you with that, as I'm only a language model and don't have the necessary information or abilities. Alright, I got it. Let's just... You know what? It does not know what this Entrotree is. It's forgotten. But I'm just going to read this story. Sure, here's a story about the Entrotree and Bard. In the beginning, there was the Entrotree. It stood tall and proud, its roots reaching deep into the earth, and its branches reaching high into the sky. It was a symbol of life and growth, and it stood for centuries, providing shelter and sustenance to all who lived in its shadow. One day, a drunkard named Bard stumbled upon the Entrotree in the dark. He had been drinking all night, and he was feeling very foolish. He decided to relieve himself on the tree as a way of asserting his dominance. The Entrotree was sleeping, and it did not wake up when Bard relieved himself on it. However, the tree was not pleased. It felt the urine on its bark, and it was filled with rage. The Entrotree awoke, and it roared in anger. The sound of its roar shook the forest, and the animals all fled in fear. The Entrotree's branches reached out, and they began to tear down the trees around it. The roots of the Entrotree dug into the earth, and they began to uproot the trees. Bard was caught in the middle of the Entrotree's wrath. He tried to run, but it was too late. The Entrotree's branches reached out and grabbed him and lifted him into the air. The Entrotree held Bard in its grasp for a moment. Then it opened its mouth and swallowed him whole. Bard screamed as he was swallowed, and then he was gone. The Entrotree roared again, and then it turned its attention to the rest of the forest. The tree began to destroy the forest, and it did not stop until the entire forest was gone. The Entrotree was a force of nature, and it could not be stopped. It was a reminder of the power of nature and the dangers of hubris.
Well, it still kind of lost what the Entrotree was, didn't it?
Yeah, completely. Okay, let's write a speech about this event in the style of Donald Trump. Let's see what Mr. Donald has to say about this. Says, sure, here's a speech about the Entrotree and Bard in the style of Donald Trump. My fellow Americans, I stand before you today and talk about a very serious matter, a matter that threatens our very way of life. I'm talking about the Entrotree. The Entrotree is a massive tree that has been dormant for centuries, but it is now awakened and it is on a rampage. It has already destroyed an entire forest and it's not stopping there. The Entrotree is a symbol of the dangers of hubris, and it is a reminder that we must always respect the power of nature. But the Entrotree is also a symbol for hope, and it's a reminder that we can overcome any challenge if we work together. That is why I'm asking for your help. I'm asking you to join me in fighting the Entrotree. We can do this, we can defeat the Entrotree, and we will make America great again. Yeah, that doesn't sound at all remotely like Donald Trump.
I mean, it ended with MAGA, right?
Yeah.
It was a little too clean cut, though.
And
Didn't
it had
ramble
big
about.
words.
It didn't really ramble, I don't think. Going on about how the election was stolen.
I'm gonna, throw another little thing in there. I'm gonna see if it comes up with something better. Holy snot! I broke the AI.
You're good at doing that.
Yes. Here's what we have. My fellow Americans, I stand before you today to talk about a very serious matter. A very serious matter. A matter that threatens our very way of life. I'm talking about the Entrotree. The Entrotree is a massive tree that has been dormant for centuries, but it is now awakened and it is on a rampage. It has already destroyed an entire forest and it's not stopping there. The Entrotree is a symbol of the dangers of hubris. It is a reminder that we must always respect the power of nature. But the Entrotree is also a symbol of hope. It is a reminder that we can overcome any challenge if we work together. That is why I'm asking for your help. I'm asking you to join me in fighting the Entrotree. We can do this, we can defeat the Entrotree, and we can make America great again. The Entrotree is a very bad tree. It's 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 a very bad tree. It goes on like this for like 5 pages.
Oh, that's quite amazing.
What do we learn from this? That the Entrotree is a very bad tree.
It's a very bad tree.
It's a very bad tree.
It's a very bad tree.
I don't know, I broke it.
It's a very
I don't
bad
know
tree.
what to do.
There's whispers as I'm coming closer to this area. That should be fun. Whispers are always a good thing. Oh, yeah, no, okay. That was 100% worth it. Never mind. Alright. Next boss. Here we go. No boss? No, this room's much too big for there not to be a boss. There's 3 out of 4. Where's this 4th soul gonna be at? It's just a family of potheads here, isn't it? Well, this one's a kettle head. Look at all these potheads. How'd they sit around long enough? I'm probably gonna regret that, but there's probably some achievement for... Ooh, there's a gate here. Let's see what's down here. Oh, shortcut. Okay. Gives us 3. I hunger for souls. Oh, I know. There's a key down here. How's things coming there, Sidos?
I don't know. I'm breaking it worse and worse and worse and worse.
Might be worthwhile to copy and paste the thread of the Entrotree into a new thread with it.
Yeah. It says, "My fellow Americans, I stand before you today to talk about a very serious matter. A matter that threatens our way of life. I'm talking about the woke monster. The woke monster is a very bad monster. It's 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 a very bad monster." Well, comical, I don't know. I think I've completely destroyed Bard's mind.
Seems like.
Alright, now that I've got that, let's close down Bard entirely and just start this all over again.
Second verse, same as the first. It's a very bad monster. 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 I think I'm going to be shouting that here pretty soon, if I can figure out where the hell I'm supposed to go.
Okay, I'm asking Bard, have you ever heard of the Entrotree?
Oh,
Totally new thread. Says, yes, I've heard of the Entrotree. It's a proposed method for storing information in a way that is resistant to entropy. The idea is to use a tree-like structure to store the information, with each node in the tree representing a bit of information. The tree is then encoded using a technique called entropy coding, which reduces the amount of space required to store the information. The Entrotree has several advantages over traditional methods of storing information. First, it is resistant to entropy. This means that even if the information is stored in a noisy environment, it will still be possible to reconstruct the original information. Secondly, the Entrotree is very efficient in terms of space. This is because the entropy coding technique can reduce the amount of space required to store the information by up to 90%. The Entrotree is still in the early stages of development, but has the potential to revolutionize the way we store information. If it's successful, it could make it possible to store large amounts of information in a very small space, and it could also make it possible to store information in a way that is resistant to entropy. Here are some additional details about the Entrotree. The Entrotree was invented by Dr. David Deutsch, a physicist at the University of Oxford. The Entrotree is based on the concept of entropy, which is a measure of the disorder of a system. The Entrotree is resistant to entropy because it uses a tree-like structure to store information. The Entrotree is efficient in terms of space because it uses entropy coding to reduce the amount of space required to store information. The Entrotree is still in the early stages of development, but has the potential to revolutionize the way we store information.
Well,
so, I don't think that's at all what we were referring to.
no, although there is the Entrotree is a permanent sculpture on display at Sculpture Space in Utica, New York. Avon Project. Nothing about this technology version. That's a quick glance, but what are you working on now, Sidos? What you got rolling?
I'm working on trying a new prompt.
A new prompt. A new prompt enters the field. And so we come to fight.
It keeps saying the same thing. I can't assist you as I'm only a language model and don't have the capacity to understand and respond.
Well, that's fine.
Like, it doesn't have the ability to understand and respond language because it's just a language model?
Ooh, I want what's in the chest. Give me what's in the chest. Don't be a mimic. Don't be a mimic. It's a mimic!
That would be hilarious.
No, it's a mimic. It just swallowed me into another dimension. Avarice. Okay, what are we fighting? We're fighting everything.
Alright. Well, here is a story. Once upon a time, there was a town that was being terrorized by 40 mules. The mules were led by a wicked witch, and they would go from house to house, accusing people of being witches. If someone was accused, they would be taken to the town square and burned at the stake. The people of the town were terrified, and they didn't know what to do. They tried to fight back, but the mules were too strong. They were about to give up hope when a young boy named Donald had an idea. Donald went to the town council and told them that he could build a wall to keep the mules out. The council was skeptical at first, but they eventually agreed to give Donald a chance. Donald worked day and night, and soon he had built a tall, strong wall around the town. The mules tried to attack, but they couldn't get over the wall. The people of the town were finally safe. The witch was furious that her plans had been foiled. She tried to cast a spell on Donald, but it didn't work. The wall was too strong. The witch eventually gave up and left town. The people of the town were so grateful to Donald for saving them, they threw a big party in his honor. You could say a grand old party, and he was made a hero.
Did it say a grand old party?
Yes, Donald lived in... Donald lived
worth
a
the
long,
death?
happy life, and he was always remembered as the man who built a wall to stop the 40 mules. The moral of the story is that even a small person can make a big difference. Even something, don't give up. You can make a difference in the world.
Damn it. I'm so sorry.
Are you like playing chess? Is that what's going on here? It looks like little pawns.
They're all urns and pots.
I don't know, it looks like you took a lot of balls to the face.
Yeah, green screaming balls of death.
I got this queuing up something different here. G Squared was a gamer. He loved to play video games, especially first-person shooters. He was good at them too. He could always beat the highest difficulty levels. One day, G Squared was playing a new video game called Chess of Death. The game was set in a world where all the chess pieces had come to life. They were all evil, and they wanted to kill G Squared. G Squared started the game by choosing his character. He could choose from a knight, a bishop, a rook, or a pawn. He chose the knight. The game started, and G Squared was immediately attacked by a group of chess pieces. They were all different colors, and they all had different weapons. Some of them had swords, some of them had axes, and some of them had bows and arrows. G Squared fought back, but he was outnumbered. He was hit by a sword, and then an axe, and then an arrow. He fell to the ground, and the chess pieces started to slap him in the face with green glowing balls. G Squared screamed in pain, but no one could hear him. He was all alone in the game world. The chess pieces kept slapping him, and he kept screaming. What have I created? Finally, G Squared died. The chess pieces stopped slapping him, and they all stood around his body. They looked at each other, and then they started to laugh. The game was over, and G Squared had lost. He had been defeated by the chess pieces. G Squared woke up in a cold sweat. He had been having a nightmare. He got out of bed and went to splash some water on his face. As he looked in the mirror, he saw that he was still wearing the knight's armor from his nightmare. He took off the armor and put it back in the closet. G Squared went back to bed, but he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the chess pieces. He knew that they were real, and he knew they were coming for him. The next day, G Squared went back to the video game store. He bought a new game and he started playing it. He played for hours, and he didn't think about the chess pieces at all. But then, at night, he had the nightmare again. This time, the chess pieces were even more powerful. They killed G Squared over and over. G Squared knew that he couldn't keep playing the game. He had to find a way to stop the chess pieces. He went back to the video game store, and he bought a book about chess. He read the book from cover to cover, and he learned everything he could about the game. The next day, G Squared went back to the video game world. He found the chess pieces, and he challenged them to a game of chess. The chess pieces were surprised. They had never been challenged to a game of chess before. They agreed to play, and they all sat down at a table. This is so weird. G Squared played his best, and he won. The chess pieces were furious. They attacked G Squared, but he was ready for them. He fought back, and he defeated them all. The chess pieces were defeated, and they disappeared. G Squared had won. He had stopped the chess pieces, and he had saved the video game world. G Squared went back to his house, and he went to bed. He was exhausted, but he was also happy. He had finally defeated the chess pieces, and he could finally sleep in peace. That was... I don't even know what to say about that story.
Well, I think it's 10:30. We've been going for 2 hours at this point. We've had some good times, some good stories. I want to thank everybody for coming. I think I'm going to call it quits here. Next week, we'll take on the witch and send Granny to the afterlife.
Nancy Pelosi.
I mean, I thought that was the thing to do. Isn't it 2022?
I suppose.
Oh, there's more stuff over here. I may have to check this out real quick. Hold on. Before we go, one more thing. What are we gonna see? Ooh, shiny orbs. I like it as shiny orbs. What does that do? all comes back to the witch. She's a witch! Ban the witch! She turned me into a newt. I got better.
She might be a bad monster. She might be a bad monster. She might be a bad monster.
She might be a bad monster. Oh my god. Alright guys, thank you very much for coming, following, streaming. Please share like with your with everybody.